Hey everyone, you won't believe what happened the day my neighbor's son sat right next to me. It started as a simple moment, but what unfolded completely changed everything, my perspective, my day, and maybe even my life. If you've ever experienced unexpected moments that catch you off guard, this story is for you. Stay tuned because what comes next is something you definitely don't want to miss. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss out on stories that make you think twice. It was just another ordinary day in my quiet neighborhood, the kind of day when nothing much ever seems to happen. The sun was shining gently, a soft breeze rustling through the leaves of the old trees lining the street. I had my usual cup of coffee in hand, settled into my favorite spot by the window, scrolling through my phone and enjoying the peaceful morning. Our neighborhood is small but close-knit, everyone knows everyone, and most days, life moves at a slow, comforting pace. There's Mr. Ahmed who runs the corner store, the old couple across the street who always wave when they see you, and of course, the family next door. They've lived there for years, and their son, Samir, is about my age but a bit of a mystery. We've crossed paths in passing, exchanged polite nods, but never really talked. That day, as I sat on the bus heading to work, the bus was more crowded than usual. People shuffled in and out, looking tired or lost in thought. Then, suddenly, I felt a presence next to me. When I glanced sideways, I was surprised to see Samir, the neighbor's son, slide into the seat right beside me. I wasn't sure why. We'd never been close, just casual acquaintances at best. But there he was, looking a little uneasy, avoiding eye contact. It caught me off guard. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual but friendly. "Didn't expect to see you here." He shrugged, a bit nervous. "Yeah, same bus, I guess." The silence stretched. Then he looked out the window, watching the city blur by. And finally spoke. "I didn't want to bother you, but I didn't have anywhere else to sit." That simple sentence carried a weight I couldn't ignore. There was something about his voice, quiet, hesitant, that made me want to know more. I decided to ask, "Is everything okay?" He hesitated again before nodding slowly. "Yeah, mostly." But I could tell he wasn't telling the whole truth. Something was clearly going on beneath the surface. And just like that, a simple bus ride turned into the start of a story I never expected, one that would change how I saw Samir, my neighbor, and maybe even myself. The bus rumbled on, carrying us through busy streets and neighborhoods I had passed 100 times before. But this time, everything felt different. Sitting there beside Samir, the neighbor's son, I felt a strange mix of curiosity and unease. Who was this quiet kid I thought I knew, but clearly didn't? He kept his eyes on the window, tracing the blurry outlines of people walking by, the flashing lights of stores and street signs. I wanted to break the silence but wasn't sure how. Finally, I took a chance. "So, Samir, what's been keeping you busy these days?" I asked casually. He gave a half smile, almost like a reflex, but it didn't reach his eyes. "School stuff. You know." I nodded, though I had a feeling there was more to it. "Anything fun?" He shrugged again, then shifted in his seat as if uncomfortable. "Not really." I glanced at him, noticing the worn-out backpack at his feet, a bit tattered and clearly well-used. It looked like he carried a lot with him, maybe more than just books. "Long day?" I ventured. His gaze finally met mine, and for a split second, I saw something flicker, vulnerability, maybe? "Yeah, sort of." I wanted to say more, to ask what sort of day, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I changed the subject. "Do you usually take this bus?" He nodded. "Yeah, it's the easiest way to get to school and back." "That's true," I said. "Public transport can be a pain, though." He laughed softly, the first real smile of the ride. Yeah, especially when it's this crowded. That broke the ice a little, and the conversation started to flow more naturally. We talked about little things, the weather, the traffic, the annoying habit of bus drivers suddenly stopping for no reason. For a moment, it felt like we were just two regular guys on an ordinary commute. But beneath it all, I could tell something was eating at him. Something he wasn't ready to share. After a pause, I tried again. Samir, if you ever want to talk about anything, seriously, I'm here. He looked at me, surprise flashing across his face. Why would you say that? Because sometimes, it helps to have someone who listens. He was quiet for a moment, chewing on the idea. Then, finally, he said, thanks. That means a lot. I smiled. No problem. The bus jolted as we approached a busy intersection, and for a moment, I thought our conversation might end there. But then, something unexpected happened. Samir leaned a little closer and whispered, "Not many people around here care to listen." His voice was almost breaking. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded, silently telling him that I was there. That day on the bus, I realized that sometimes the people closest to us carry hidden struggles, ones they don't show. Samir wasn't just a quiet neighbor's son. He was someone with stories and pain, needing a little space to be heard. And just like that, sitting side by side on a crowded bus, a bridge began to form between two strangers who lived right next door. After that day on the bus, something changed between Samir and me. It was subtle at first, a nod here, a quick hi there, but gradually, the distance that had always been between us began to shrink. A few days later, I ran into him at the neighborhood park. He was sitting alone on a bench, headphones on, staring blankly at the playground. Normally, I might have kept walking, respecting his space. But something pulled me toward him. "Hey, Samir," I called gently. He looked up, startled but not displeased. "Hey." I sat down a little way off, careful not to crowd him. "Mind if I join you?" He shook his head. "No, it's okay." For a moment, silence hung between us, comfortable and strange all at once. Then, he pulled off his headphones and sighed. "You seemed like you wanted to talk the other day," he said quietly. I smiled. "I'm still here." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I guess I don't have many people I can talk to." "Why's that?" He looked down at his hands, fiddling with the frayed cuffs of his jacket. "People here, they don't really care. Or they judge. You know how it is in small neighborhoods." "I do," I said. "Sometimes people expect you to be one way, and if you're not, they don't understand." He gave a bitter laugh. "Yeah, like I'm supposed to be perfect or something." I waited for him to continue, sensing there was more behind his words. "My parents, they're always working. They want me to focus on school, get good grades, and make a better life. But it's not that simple." "What makes it complicated?" I asked softly. He looked away, voice dropping. "There's a lot going on at home. Money's tight, and my dad's been sick. I have to take care of my little sister sometimes. It's exhausting." I felt a pang of sympathy. "That's a lot for anyone to handle." "Yeah," he said. "And sometimes, I just want to escape. But there's no easy way out." I could see the weight he carried. Not just physical, but emotional, the kind that drags you down and makes every day feel harder. "I didn't realize," I said honestly. "You don't have to go through it alone, you know." He looked at me, eyes searching. "I don't really trust people easily. But you seem different." "Because I've been there," I said quietly. "Maybe not exactly the same, but I know what it's like to feel trapped." For the first time, Samir smiled without hesitation, a genuine, warm smile that lit up his face. "Thanks," he said. "I'm glad I sat next to you that day on the bus." "Me too," I admitted. That moment was the start of a connection I never expected. Two people from the same street, learning about each other's struggles, dreams, and fears. We talked about everything from school pressures to future hopes. He told me about how much he loved music but didn't think he could ever pursue it seriously. I shared stories from my own life, mistakes and all. It was refreshing to just be heard without judgment. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, I realized something powerful. Sometimes, the people sitting right next to you hold the stories you never knew you needed to hear. And maybe, just maybe, those stories could change how you see the world, and yourself. Days turned into weeks, and my conversations with Samir became a small but important part of my daily routine. Each encounter chipped away at the wall he'd carefully built around himself. But nothing prepared me for the moment when he finally shared something I never saw coming. One evening, as the sky darkened and the street lights flickered on, I found him sitting on the front steps of his house, staring at the ground. I sat beside him, and after a few minutes of silence, he sighed deeply. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," he began, voice low and hesitant. I nodded, encouraging him to continue. "It's not easy for me to say. I've kept it hidden for a long time because I was scared. Scared of what people would think, scared of losing the little respect I have." I listened, waiting patiently. He looked up, eyes glistening. "A few years ago, before my dad got sick, before things started falling apart at home, I got involved with the wrong crowd." I was silent, surprised but not judging. I started skipping school, hanging out with people who didn't have my best interests at heart. I made some bad choices, some I'm not proud of. He swallowed hard, as if trying to hold back tears. "One night, we got into some serious trouble. It was dangerous, and I was lucky to get out without anyone getting hurt." I took a deep breath, trying to absorb the weight of his confession. That's when I realized I needed to change. Not just for me, but for my family. My little sister looks up to me, and my mom, she's been holding everything together. I couldn't let them down. His honesty struck me deeply. Here was a young man, burdened by mistakes but determined to make things right, despite the odds stacked against him. "Why didn't you tell anyone before?" I asked gently. "Because I was ashamed," he admitted. "People around here don't forgive easily. If they knew, I'd be labeled, that kid, forever." I wanted to prove I could be better on my own. I nodded, respecting his courage to share with me now. "You're already proving it," I said. "Opening up is a big step." He smiled faintly. "Thanks. It feels good to say it out loud." That night, I realized how much we all hide behind walls, afraid to let others see our true struggles. Samir's story wasn't just about mistakes. It was about hope, resilience, and the fight to rewrite his own narrative. From that moment, our connection grew stronger. I promised to be there for him, no matter what. And in turn, he started to believe in himself a little more. The boy who once sat silently beside me on the bus had become someone I admired, not for perfection, but for the courage to face his past and step into a better future. After Samir's confession, everything between us shifted, but not in an awkward way. Instead, there was a new layer of trust and understanding. I found myself looking at my quiet neighbor's son in a completely different light. He was no longer just Samir, the neighbor's kid. He was a real person, with fears, regrets, and a fierce determination to rise above it all. The days following his reveal were a mix of reflection and action for me. I started paying more attention to the little things around our neighborhood, the subtle signs that someone might be struggling but hiding it behind a smile or silence. I thought about how often we pass by people without really seeing them. At home, I shared some of these thoughts with my family, encouraging them to be a bit more open and supportive to those around us. Sometimes, all someone needs is a listening ear or a simple act of kindness. Meanwhile, Samir began to change, too. I noticed he was more confident, more engaged at school, and even started talking about his passion for music with a spark I hadn't seen before. One day, he told me he was thinking about joining the school band, something he'd never imagined doing before. It wasn't just about music, it was about reclaiming a part of himself he'd almost lost. I felt proud, but also humbled, knowing that his courage to open up was the real catalyst for this transformation. Of course, not everything became perfect overnight. Samir still faced challenges. His dad's health was unpredictable, money was tight, and sometimes the weight of his past threatened to pull him back. But with each day, he grew stronger. Our conversations continued, sometimes light and sometimes heavy, but always honest. He taught me to appreciate resilience in a way I hadn't before, and I tried to be the friend he needed, steady, patient, and without judgment. That quiet bus ride, the unexpected moment when he chose to sit beside me, had started something powerful. It reminded me that sometimes the most meaningful connections come when we least expect them, and that every person has a story worth hearing. Looking back, I realized how easy it is to overlook those stories, to miss the chance to be the support someone desperately needs. And I knew I wouldn't make that mistake again. Weeks passed, and the rhythm of life in our neighborhood continued, but something inside me had changed. What started as a chance encounter on a crowded bus had blossomed into a friendship I never saw coming. Samir was no longer just the quiet neighbor's son, he was a reminder of the power of empathy and the unexpected ways people can touch your life. One afternoon, as I walked past his house, I saw him sitting on the porch, strumming a guitar. The hesitant boy who once avoided eye contact was now confidently sharing his music with his little sister, who listened with wide-eyed admiration. I stopped for a moment, smiled, and called out, "Hey, Samir. That sounds great." He looked up and grinned. "Thanks. I'm thinking about performing at the school event next month." "That's amazing," I said, feeling proud. "You've come a long way." He nodded, then added thoughtfully, "You know, if you hadn't sat next to me on that bus, I don't know where I'd be." I shook my head. Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one person willing to listen. You had the courage, Samir. I just helped you find your voice. He smiled, a warmth in his eyes that spoke volumes. That day, I realized that we all carry unseen battles, but we don't have to face them alone. A little kindness, a simple conversation, or just sitting beside someone can open doors to healing and hope. As I continued my walk home, I felt grateful, not only for the friendship I had gained but for the reminder that every person has a story waiting to be heard. So, if you ever find yourself sitting next to a stranger, take a moment to listen. You never know what amazing journey might begin with just a simple hello. If this story moved you, even just a little, please like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who might need it. Let's build a community where stories like this can be heard. Because behind every quiet face is a life we know nothing about, until we ask. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most unexpected seats lead to the most unforgettable journeys. Subscribe for more real-life stories, right here on this channel.